All glories to Mother Ritasha. All glories to Religion of Love. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to our Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings of love in the world. Jai. We're continuing from the book, The Religion of God. And the last line we read last week, your conclusion is correct. God does have a religion. The religion of God, says the Master, is love. Love, sneers a man in black at the back. Do not speak to me of love. Instead, let me tell you of my bitter experience of love. My best friend, the one I loved as a brother, has betrayed me. The person who was closest to me has turned out to be a hypocrite, acting one way in front of me and another way behind my back. The one I would have trusted with my wealth and work has proved unworthy. And a disciple sitting next to him puts his arm around him to console him, saying, "It is the mercy of God that you found out the truth when you did." And a voice at the front of the room is overheard to say, "And the truth shall make you free." "A year ago," said a certain man to the Master, "I attended a talk you gave, and in your talk you told a story of this very thing, of how the truth shall make you free." Then does another ask if the Master would tell them this same story. And the Master, obliging, begins by saying, "Long ago in a faraway land there lived a king. Every year on his birthday, as an act of mercy, the king would free one prisoner. Thus, on this day we find the king in the prison house, with the jailer standing at the head of a line of prisoners. The king, approaching the first prisoner in the line, says, 'I am told you have been convicted of murder.' 'Oh no, I am innocent,' pleads the prisoner. 'It was another who committed the crime.' The king then approaches the next prisoner and says, 'I have been informed that you are a thief.' At this the prisoner proclaims, 'I was unjustly accused. I am an innocent man.' And so it goes. Every prisoner the king approaches claims he is innocent. When finally the king comes to the last prisoner, the king says to him, 'And I suppose you too are innocent.' 'No, sire,' is the prisoner's reply. 'I did commit the crime I was convicted of, and am being justly punished.' Hearing this, the king exclaims to the jailer, 'Quick, throw this man out before he corrupts all these innocent people.'" "The truth has not made me free," says the man in black at the back. "It has made me angry. And as a follower of the religion of love, I do know it is wrong to have anger, for I believe that anyone who claims to love God, but has anger at another, can never fully love God." And the Master, given insight, says to the man, "Your problem is not that you have anger. Your problem is that anger has you. And in anger, one is always in danger of giving those who anger us the power to drag us down to their level, so our actions are no better than theirs. Universal law does decree that what people do to you will come back to them, and how you react to what people do to you will come back to you. In your case, though," said the Master to the man, "you are being punished not for your anger, but by your anger. It is said that Anger is as an acid which destroys the vessel in which it is contained, as your anger is destroying you. I have tried and tried and tried, cries the man in frustration. I have denied, distracted, resisted, and run from it, all to no avail. Still am I consumed by it. And he turns his head away that none should see his tears. Okay, keeps going but on this topic, but let's hear some commentary. So, love, the guy says, God's religion is love. Love? Do not speak to me of love. Let me tell you my bitter experiences of love. Now, again, of course, we've heard in previous classes, the word love, as used in the teachings of Mother Natasha, is of the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual, of a love that grows, nothing of this world, but of the spiritual world, a love of God. What we often perceive to be love, or what we call love, are all the worldly things such as emotions, desires, romance, attachments, things like that, things that come and go, things that are not eternal. But this man telling his bitter experience in this world, things that he thought was love. My best friend, the one I loved as a brother, has betrayed me. Boy, a lot of us been there. I've experienced that too. I've had a best friend who was like a brother to me and betrayed me, and oof, boy, did that hurt. It says, the person who was closest to me has turned out to be a hypocrite, acting one way in front of me and another way behind my back. Right, so people who are our contemporaries, our peers, who we love as family even, how much we've been disappointed, been let down, betrayed. And those who we see as our elders, our mentors, our teachers, for example, often we catch them in the do as I say, not as I do nonsense, where they don't actually live what they teach, or they're not actually in integrity with what they say, or they might be duplicitous and, as this man's experience, act one way here, but then another, different face, act a different way. Womp. And here, the one I would have trusted with my wealth and work has proved unworthy, right? Like somebody who has an unworthy heir. You work so hard to provide for the family, try to build a fortune or a nest egg to leave behind, keep the legacy going, support the folks, but then, you have these unworthy or, bratty kids sometimes, or very poor qualities. We've seen many examples of this, right? So we've been disappointed, right? We've been let down quite a bit in this world, quite a bit by people in this world. And the disciple says to him, well, it's the mercy of God that you found out the truth when you did. If you think about it, it is, actually. Better you know what's really going on. Better you know who this person really is before things get even worse, before more harm or more suffering can come about it, or that relationship. And then someone says, and the truth shall make you free. Anything that is not true will cause you suffering. So in this world, we love another because on some level, we're getting something, or at least expecting something. As material things are limited and temporary, we're going to be at one point disappointed, angry, fed up, and upset. Love what is inside of you. There is the love. From the spiritual state of love, we can love those who don't love us. Having an expectation of results and being disappointed with them will cause ourselves great pain. We do our absolute best, as we're taught in spiritual life, to do things, and what comes of devotional service, of spiritual life, is right, no matter what, because it is coming from God. But we must do our best and do it all for God, acting in devotion, giving up the fruits of your labors, not being fruitive, not expecting a result. If you don't have expectations, well, you can't be disappointed, especially if you don't seek the results of your work. And that is how devotees live in this world. Servants of the servants of God, we live and act in a manner not for what I get out of it, what I can expect in return for my service, for my actions, but just surrendering everything unto God, and whatever comes back, it's right. Whether so-called good result, bad result, doesn't matter. There is no good, no bad result in devotional service. Whatever the result is, that is the right result. Because when you offer everything unto God without seeking something for yourself, it's always the right result. So, for example, we were book preachers. We go out on the streets, we distribute books, and sometimes, a lot of books go out and you'd be like, yay, we distributed a lot of books today. And other days, got super slow, barely any books went out, maybe none. And you might feel down, no books went out, and you might think I didn't do a good job today or something, right? But that's all fruitive thinking. Being elated when something joyous happens, or being sad when something disappointing takes place. That is us in worldly consciousness. That is part of the contamination of the mind. It's not true. It's illusory. We're acting not out of our state of love, but out of fear, anxiety, expectations, attachments, etc. Things of that nature. Oh, someone joined. Welcome. Oh, where's my notes? I just lost. Oops-a-doodle. So offer all the fruits of your labors unto God and let go of the results. Live it, give it, let go, and let God. And you'll never be disappointed. It's always the right result because it's always coming from God. And so it's actually quite liberating. It frees us because it doesn't matter what the result is. You're not working for the result. You're working just to be in service and to please God. That's it. Very, very simple. Isn't that nice how it doesn't matter how the work turns out in the end as long as you do the work? It doesn't matter what worldly result you may perceive or what others might consider as success or failure. It doesn't matter, because being of service is what's pleasing to God, without expectations. Isn't that nice? So then she tells this story of the king and the prisoners, one of which on his birthday he plans to pardon. And stories are nice because they're really good at grabbing people's attention. Excuse me. And the story where he asks all the prisoners, you're accused of theft, you're accused of murder, etc., etc. And all the prisoners say, no, I'm innocent, I didn't do it, someone else did it. And, they're pleading their case, right? Until he comes to one man and says, I suppose you're innocent too? No, sire, I did commit the crime I was convicted of and am being justly punished. And the king goes, quick, throw this man out before he corrupts all these innocent people. So in this instance, it's a cute story, saying that the truth shall make you free, and this man's telling the truth. and he got set free. Well, that's a gross example of this teaching, but there's a subtler meaning behind it that is very, very deep. It's enough in our lives where we perceive all the faults and mistakes and crimes committed by so many other people, but rarely do we admit our own faults, our own mistakes, our own crimes. Keep ourselves accountable. Most of us love to live in the illusion that they do no wrong. Or was it me? I did right. And they don't want to admit. And this comes from pride, ignorance, fear. Because if you're wrong, if you made a mistake, you might fear the results of, what people think I did wrong, or I might let down people's expectations, or my own perception of myself. And we must be able to be honest with ourselves. We have to, in all humility, see what is going on inside ourselves, in our minds, in our life, and realize that, my goodness, every single one of us actually is like one of these prisoners. We all are, because we are all in the prison house of birth and death. This material world, these material bodies, this is our prison. We're all guilty. We're all offenders. None of us is innocent. And until we come to humility, to realize how much of an offender I really am, how many grievous offenses and mistakes and sins I have committed in my life and past lives immemorial. Until we come to that humility, to understand and see all of the dirt that we're carrying and face it, own it, and try to repent and purify it, then we'll never break free of this prison house. We got to be really honest with ourselves. And that takes a lot of bravery. Most people are cowards. That's the truth. Nothing wrong with that, but that's because we're cowardice. We're afraid to look outside ourselves for our own problems, for our own faults, our own shortcomings, our own suffering. It's easier to blame outside. It's because of this, it's because of him or her, because of that, because so many excuses of why we suffer. Never taking ownership that all of our suffering really, ultimately, begins from us. And this man says, the truth has not made me free, it's made me angry. Okay, well, better to know the truth. So back to the harsh realities of this world, place of suffering, where all who enter must endure miseries caused by other people, nature, our own minds and bodies. And there's a lot of bad things in this world. A lot of awful news that could fill you with anger, knowing the truth of what's being done on this planet. It can fill you with anger, right? And surely, yes, devotees do not tolerate injustice, corruption, unnecessary harm committed against the innocent or the weak. It can really rile you up. And this man says, as a follower of the religion of love, I know it is wrong to have anger, for I believe that anyone who claims to love God, but has anger at another, can never fully love God. So if you're holding on to anger at others, anger at yourself, or not just anger even, holding on to fears, anxieties, past traumas, you're holding on to all these things, these dirty, dark things that rest in the deep recesses of the mind, you're not going to be experiencing your natural state of love, of bliss, of knowledge, until those things are removed, cleared away, the junk gotten out of the way. So if you're holding on to all these things, these dirty things, like a bunch of dust and mud covering a light bulb, well, how bright is that light going to shine? How fully can you really shine if you're covered over with all this gunk? How much can we truly love God, let alone anyone else, if our mind is so clouded with so much of this ignorance, of all this suffering? That all needs to be removed. And that is what devotional service does. Hearing, chanting, remembering. It's to remove all these things that keep us from experiencing love, keep us from our natural state of being. It's working on ourselves. Spiritual life is working on yourself, to come again to your real self by clearing away everything that is not of the self, everything that is not of love. And it starts with taking ownership of all that gunk, of confessing and seeing the truth and realizing that, yes, I do have all of this, and that's my problem that I have to work on. It's not others who are responsible for my suffering within myself. Surely others can say hurtful things, do hurtful actions. Surely, of course, we're not condoning the actions of others, and we're going to go into that next week. Maybe we'll have time to cover it. We'll see today. But back to anger. In anger, she says, your problem is not that you have anger. Your problem is that anger has you. So this man is feeling like guilty. He's feeling shameful that he has this anger, right? And he feels like that because he's full of all this anger, that's the reason why he's suffering or being punished, right? Because he has anger. The Master says it's not the problem, not that you have anger, is the anger is having you, that you're being consumed by it. You're giving it so much control and power over you. And in anger, one is always in danger of giving those who anger us, those who are the triggers for what's already inside of us. They don't put the anger in you. They don't put the emotions into you. No one can do that. No one can make you feel anything. They're just the reminder, the outward stimuli that triggers or awakens the gunk that was underneath the surface, now popping forth. And now is all up in your face, and now that's the state of being that you're in, such as a state of anger. And it's dangerous to be in anger, in that state, that illusion, because you might give to others the power to drag you down to their level. And boy, I've been there. I've been there plenty of times. I'm sure we've all have. When you're in an argument with somebody, things are getting heated, and boy, does your character start to sink in that argument. And you start saying things you might regret, act in a manner or behave in a way which not too cool. We get dragged down. It's very dangerous to be in that state of anger. And universal law does decree that what people do to you will come back to them. You don't need to seek justice. Justice will be served. Oh yes, everyone has their comeuppance. We're living proof of it. Boy, are we experiencing our comeuppances. Everything that happens to us, reaction to our past actions. But how you react, what you do and say to the people doing things to you don't like, well, what you do is going to come back to you. So in In your case, the Master says, you are being punished not for your anger, but by your anger. The anger itself is that punishment. It said anger is as an acid which destroys the vessel in which it is contained. Your anger is destroying you, destroying your peace, causing you to make great mistakes and illusion. These things need to be addressed and worked on. And the man cries, he's frustrated. I've tried. I've been working on that. I don't want to be full of anger. I need to get rid of this. But I've denied it. I've distracted myself. I've resisted it. I've run from it. All to no avail. Still I'm consumed by it. It is the resistance to feelings that cause our pain. So feel them, don't resist them. And that's one of the first steps of the peace process. And I have some nice notes here I'd like to share from classes from Mother Atasha. 90% of this great pain, anger, anxiety, etc., is usually from the past. Not from some occurrence or thing right now. Be mindful of that. Someone may do something and you get upset, right? But often our upset is way out of proportion to what just happened. Because it's not them, it's us. We have tons of this anger, tons of this upset, tons of this junk that we're holding on to. It's just waiting to burst through the surface. It's all swept under the rug, and at any moment, it'll just pop its ugly head out again. And I have some nice notes about criticism. Mother Atasha taught, criticism is dangerous because you could doubt yourself. Criticism is often something inside them who do it. Emotions that are being touched. I've experienced that. I've been criticized by people of things that weren't true about me, but they're actually true about themselves. She said, if we get upset, it's something that's touching us, inside that we need to look at. If someone accuses you of being a thief, it's almost a sure sign that they are a thief or have experienced theft from others. It's something coming from them. Our emotions are from us, not from them. And when some criticize, it's about them. When we criticize or blame, it's about us. So whenever one of my former god sisters, she said, and every time you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. It's kind of revealing, isn't it? And Mother Atasha taught from Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 2, Shlok 56, one who is not disturbed in mind by the threefold miseries, or related in happiness, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as a sage of steady mind. All disturbances are from the mind, not the outside things we think. Nobody can really upset you or make you feel a certain way. It is my mind. It is much easier in a habit to blame other people and not take responsibility for what we've created in our life. Thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, we are responsible for whatever is going on by our thoughts. The beauty in this is it's in your control. We can control the mind. And after initiation, for one who surrenders to God and takes to this path full-heartedly, the world and its miseries don't change. The only one who can change is you, and you change it by your mind. Spiritual realization is beyond the mind, but the mind can be a huge block to realization. So first thing in spiritual life is using our given tools to control the mind. What are those tools, of course? Knowledge, spiritual practices, association. We are not elated by material happiness. The sage of steady mind is always happy, but not over the material. And a few more notes. I know I'm going a little over. Fear is attachment to the body or illusion to not being in the present. Fear, thinking in numbers, not having enough, lack, etc. And from these things comes anger. When we're angry, we become stupid and make mistakes. Material happiness and sadness comes and goes. From attachment to material things, fear and anger arise. Okay, so this poor man suffering by his anger, from his anger, how is he going to deal with it? So that will be the topic for next week's class. I'll stop there. Pause the recording. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments, perchance?
Yeah, I have a question comment combination. More of a comment.
Oh.
I was noticing recently, at least in terms of the internet and people in general, people are a lot angrier towards specific topics, and they tend to pick sides about things. Compared to in the past, I mean, it was still there, but I think it was not as bad as it is today. And these are like, this is anger towards people that you don't even know, or it's anger towards ideas which, you know, might not even affect you. And I was just wondering, how do you deal with people like that? And how do you prevent that from affecting your own day-to-day life?
Well, how to deal with people who are consumed by divisive anger. Well, first thing would be, how do you work on your own self and these types of divisive angers and thoughts? It all starts with ourselves. And I know what you're talking about. You know, these things like politics and religion and, you know, these, you know, this side, that side, you know, choose a side, right? And now everybody in this category now becomes a scapegoat for our suffering, for our unhappiness. We start blaming them for how we feel, for our problems. So if they, like, if only they were like us, or did like us, or voted like us, or prayed like us, for example, if they think. But even if they did, you know, even if there was no left and right, they all just joined together, for example, they'd find some other excuse to blame outside themselves for how they feel, for their own suffering. They'll still do it. You know, it's just easier in that sheep mentality to go with the flock, go with the herd, you know, and this kind of like big sweeping social type of, I don't know, group identification, right? But it's the same concept, just, you know, just in a different, you know, outward manifestation, but it's the same thing. We're blaming outside of ourselves for what's going on inside ourselves, not taking ownership for how we're actually feeling, which is, of course, coming from our own thoughts. And when I mentioned before, you know, most people are cowards. Well, that's what it is. It's cowardice. It takes a real brave person to look inside their own thoughts, what's going on inside their own selves, and find the root of their own unhappiness. Most all people don't have the guts to do that. You know, they don't have the stones. Because, like I said, it's easier. And nobody wants to face their own darkness, their own ugly things, their own traumas, their own, you know, offenses and sins. I don't want to see them. Or just be like, la, 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 I'm fine, I am good, I am great, everyone else is bad. That's the easy scapegoat. And that doesn't make us happy. That doesn't solve anything. And it doesn't take a genius to look at the lives of the people who are really wrapped up in all of these divisive, hateful, political rhetoric and nonsense to see that they're not really happy people. I mean, come on. Look at how they're behaving, how they're treating one another, not with kindness, not with love, not with tolerance and compassion, but with anger, with avarice, with mistrust, with unkindness, with cruelty. All these ugly ways of acting and behaving and speaking in the world. It's very ugly, very dark, very ignorant. And that's just an outward expression of what's going on inward. And back to that wonderful story of the Buddha, when he was traveling and he came across this village and they mistook him for someone else, and they were so mean to him, so rough, so cruel, and he just stood there and took it all. And then when they were done, he just says, please forgive me, but I'm expected in this other village, but I promise I'll come back at this time next week and I'll continue our talk, if you don't mind. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not the guy we know, oops. And they profusely apologized and sorry that they mistook him and treated him so wrong. But then they were shocked. They're like, hey, why didn't you get all upset and angry of all the terrible things we said to you and treated you? And the Buddha says, oh, I'm so sorry I disappointed you, but I don't have any anger left to give you. You wanted anger, I didn't give it to you. I'm sorry. Don't have any. So, like that. You get rid of all your own ugly, dirty things. Take care of all the dirty laundry that's inside of yourself. Purify, purify, purify. Cetto darpana marjanam. Cleanse the dust from the mirror of the mind. Chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. Hear, practice, remember. Always working on ourselves, always cleaning that light bulb, which is really just the real us, more brilliant than a million suns, covered over by matter, by ugly, dark, material contamination. Get lighter, become lighter, clearer, clearer, brighter, brighter. Really your true self coming through. And you won't have those same reactions. You won't be triggered in the same way when those things that were inside of you coming out before, when these triggers were present, are no longer there anymore. The triggers will still be there. There'll still be crazy people. There'll still be, troubles in this world. That those don't stop. You'll still have problems with the body, it ages, gets sick. But the reactions, the suffering, the feelings that we get, those can all be cleared away and gone. And you can experience peace, eternality, bliss, and knowledge. You can experience love, our natural state, when all the other stuff is gone. That is the process of spiritual realization. It's just cleaning. Oh my God, cleaning house. This house. That's what we're cleaning. So how do you deal with other people? Well, in knowledge, we can have compassion and empathy, because anyone who's in such anger or being so cruel to others, well, that's a sure sign that they're suffering greatly in their own lives too. Look at all the dark things inside them. The worse your heart is covered over, the more ignorance and suffering they have inside, the more that goes outwardly and how cruel and messed up they are to others. It means they're suffering the most, but they don't admit it to themselves. They don't realize it even, how much they're suffering in this life and surely in the next. So having compassion and knowledge that everyone in this world is suffering, and some more than others, and all actions come from love or the need of it. Definitely the need of it. They are in need of love. just don't know where to get it, because they, as we mentioned earlier in the class, they qualify so many false things to be love, and then give love a bad rap, when actually that wasn't love at all. That's just the worldly things. That's all the own darkness of the mind. So how do you deal with them? Well, as you would, with love, with compassion, with understanding. Maybe best not to associate so much. I surely don't want to hang out with a bunch of people who are consumed by divisive politics and religion and nonsense like that, and who are unkind and cruel. That's not cool. Like, whoever you associate with, you become like. Association always has an effect. So, be polite, but be busy. Oh, I'm sorry, I got something to do. Sorry. Mostly we just work on ourselves, and what to do with other people when you're actually presented with those situations. Common sense, follow your heart, act out of knowledge, the best you can remember. Sometimes it's hard when you get riled up, especially when someone is all up in your face and saying a bunch of nonsense. It can really test and try you and push your buttons. I know how it goes. But it takes practice. And the more you purify and the more you chant and purify your heart and mind through spiritual practices, the easier it gets. The more you can remember knowledge, the more you can come to a state of understanding and compassion and love, than being quick to condemn, quick to judge. We're not meant to judge. Judgment's not for us. To judge means to condemn. And that's something we do to ourselves. That's not our business to condemn others, really. So anyone condemning others and judging others, being cruel to others, that's on themselves. So hope that answers your question, brother. Everything always work on yourself, really. So it always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you bet. Anyone else have a question or comment they'd like to share? Perchance. How about you, little pumpkins? No, they're good. Gotta remember not to shop for squash in October. Wait for November. All these people have these decorations. They just, they get rid of them. They don't realize they're delicious. People throwing out vegetables. You all good? All clear? To share? My wife in the back? Yes. She's good. Okay. All right then. Then tune in next week for the continuation of this, and we're going to discuss the topic of forgiveness, and that's going to be really cool. So check that out. It's not what you think it is. It's a totally different flip on it than what we think. Not totally different, but the truth shall set you free, that's for sure. Better to know, right, than not to know. Ignorance is not bliss. Anyone who says ignorance is bliss is very ignorant. And they're not actually blissed out. No, they're lying to themselves. Remember, it says also in the book, this lady was saying to the spiritual master, suffering, suffering, suffering. On and on, you always talk about suffering, but I'm not suffering. And the spiritual master says, well, there's two types of people who don't suffer in this world. One is the saint, who is so full of love of God in his heart that nothing of this world disturbs him, and therefore he doesn't suffer the pangs of material existence. He's fully content and satisfied within the self. And the other person who doesn't suffer in this world is the fool, who doesn't have the good sense that this world is a place of suffering. We all experience those threefold miseries and birth, death, old age, disease, etc. She says, okay, so which one are you? You know, one or two. So everyone suffers in this world. And to be free from suffering, that is the byproduct of spiritual realization, you know, coming to our natural state of love. And that was the initial quest of Lord Buddha, was to help ease the suffering of others. First trying to ease his own suffering so then he can help others be free from suffering, etc., etc. So, okay. So we'll go into that more next week. So, last chance. Any more? Last call? Comments, questions? Crazy dogs? Anything? Okay. All right then. All glories to Mother Ratasha. All glories to Religion of Love. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai. Let me stop the recording.